Welcome to take 4 of Bibisco overview. So I did a quick overview of Bibisco a couple weeks ago, and I just did it from my cell phone just to kind of show people exactly what Bibisco is, how it works, etc. But it was really a quick kind of overview, and it wasn't really visible. And someone suggested on the other video, hey, why don't you do one where we can kind of follow along? So I said, you know what, that's a good idea. Since I have a screen recorder now, I can go ahead and do that. So let's get started. Don't forget to like and subscribe, please. And I've watched other YouTube videos and I see people say that, but and I do it for the most part, but especially if it's something that I like. But I never realized how many people will watch your video and not subscribe or like unless you say to do it. That's weird. But anyway, moving on. Let's get started. So this is Bibisco. This is what it looks like when you first open it up. You have options to open a project, create a new project, import a project, and settings, and we'll go over each one. Let's look at this first. Create a new project. This is what you would do first. So you would type the name of your project, blah, blah, blah. You select your language, and then you hit save. Now what happens is you'll get an kind of a warning. Make sure that the language that you start for that particular project is correct, because once you've created the project, the language can't be changed. Okay, so let's cancel this out. Let's look at some of the different ones we've got. I don't actually know how to pronounce a lot of these, so I'm not going to. But you see you do have a pretty good list here, so yay. Let's cancel that. I don't need a new project. You can import a project. And we'll go over the .bibisco files later on. But this is where you would import that. So if you've saved an archive file under the Bibisco name, this is where you would open it up. And of course, you've got your language and your directory of the project. If you need to erase a folder and change the directory of the project, please do it here, because I've had an incident where I saw the folder and didn't realize that I needed to change the directory of Bibisco, which was in that folder, and I erased it, and it was a big mess. So if you need to change the directory of the project, please do it here. And open a project. Now I have several projects here. None of which are technically completed except for this test video. I used the test video before, but in this scenario, I think I'm going to go with the quest not used. And this is an old version of my current book that I'm working on. And the reason I'm going to use this is because it has a little more filled out already to give you an idea of how this program is best used. So you have project, architecture, characters, locations, chapters, analysis, export, settings, info, and suggested readings. Now this is where you name or change the name of your project. So when you create the project, you name it there. But if you decide later on that that's not a good name for your project, you can always change it here. They give you tips. These tips are very good tips, okay? They're the same for each project, so no matter which project you open up, you'll always get the same tips, but it's going to kind of read through these. When you first start, don't get so caught up in, I got to go right now. Read this, because it's really going to give you insight into what's inside this program. And kind of the idea and thinking behind helping you write your novel. So your main character's conflicts, your premise, that one sentence from beginning to end, what your novel is about, your settings, your locations, your space and time, and, New York 2010 or the 1800s, kind of set up that this is what it's going to be. Okay. Your fabula, huge importance. Read everything about this that you can. Fabula is, we don't really personally use that, I don't think, here. I've probably used fabula maybe twice as far as that word is concerned. What it is it's a timeline for your book. So I want this character to do this at this time, and then he's going to go here and do this at this time, and then he's going to meet so and so at this time. So really, get that timeline together. I generally do a small fabula. This happens, this happens, this happens, the end. And then I go back in and say, for that first this happens, I actually write out, okay, it's going to be this, and this, and this, and this. And then the second this happens, I write it out. And then I go in even further and break down each one. And then I write my story. I know that sounds crazy, but it really helps. How it's narrated, point of views. I'm going to leave a link to my blog. I have these first person, secondary first person, limited third person, omniscient third person, objective third person, and second person. I don't know necessarily that we use these in the US as well. Or maybe we do and I just don't know. But I have a great link to point of view worksheets, as well as what they are and how to know which one your story or your scene is in. So I'll leave that link in the description box. All right, let's go to architecture. What's great about these is you've got your premise. You can describe the novel in one sentence, the conflict and resolution. This is old for me. But what's great about this is each box bubble that comes up, you pretty much have all of this stuff up here. So your standard bold and italicized and your M dash and bulleted list, numbered list, your alignment. You can change your settings, to different indent or not, etc. So that's all great. And it changes in the story when you do change it. All right. So another great thing about this is once it's completed, when it first comes up, it looks like this to do. Okay. Let's say I'm working on it, but I'm not quite done. I can mark it as not yet complete. And once it's done, you can hit complete. This is really helpful when you get further into your story and, maybe something you left undeveloped that needs to be developed. You can mark it as such, not yet complete. So you may have 10 complete things and one not complete. That really helps. Okay. So let's go ahead and exit. Unsaved changes. Do you want to exit without saving? I do. Okay. But it saved save that part anyway. So let's mark it as okay. This is independent of what you've saved. So let's go ahead and close that. Cancel, save, done. All right. Your fabula. I don't think I did develop that here as well. So as you can see, I started off with what the story is, just like I said, and then I actually, break it down a little more, and then I go, book 1, book 2, book 3, etc. So this was a fabula for me that was old, and it was when I first started, so I wasn't really up to date on everything, up to speed on everything. My setting, place, and time, I actually used this at the time for something else, and it was just kind of a copy and paste thing. So, but I marked it as done. Narrative strands. These are great for the development of your characters, like to really have a specific conflict for each character. And let's see here. Yeah. That's yeah. So each one has kind of a conflict, and you want to add those here. I'm sorry, I'm getting all tongue-tied today. Narrative strands, you want to keep all those separate as they come up, and I'll tell you why later on. Let's go to characters. So these are old characters, and these are secondary characters. You've got your main ones and you've got your secondary. My main character, like Nita, I don't have her listed as complete because I've done her personal data, but I haven't done physical features, behaviors. I haven't added any images. And this particular character is the main character, so I want to make sure that she's fully complete. You have main character with a conflict, a driving force for the plot. You add those here. You build them here. This character building is beyond reproach, for me anyway. What's great about it is you can answer questions in an interview-like setting, or you can just do free text, okay? And then once you're complete, you save it and exit out. Once this story is complete, you hit completed and save it. Now, these two have been completed. Another great thing you can do is you can add images to your character. Let's see here. Do I have an image for her? I think I do. Artwork. Let's see. We'll try this one. Okay, let's try it again. Let's get a smaller image. Do I have one? I don't have a smaller image. We'll do the Mew Queen for now. Just to give you an idea of how this is working out here. So now I have an image, and of course you can add additional images. Apparently they need to be under a certain size, which, you know, that's fine too. I use that. You can use it to kind of give you an idea of what your character should look like, or what they do look like in your head. So it doesn't have to be your exact character. It can be just someone that looks close to what you imagine your character to be, obviously. What do they think? Their psychology, their ideas and passions. Where do they come from? Their sociology. You know, where do they go in the story? What generates their conflicts? What are their internal needs or external circumstances? What's the real issue at stake? How does the character evolve in the story? So you want to make sure that you do that here, because this is going to really develop your character, who they are. All right. And for each character, of course, you want to do that. Doesn't mean that you have to have it completed in the first day, but you do want to have some type of built character, a believable character. You know, this person may be shy. This person may be very brash or abrasive. And then you have your secondary characters. Once we go here, let's see. So these characters, you don't really build too much. They're part of the story. You can add images of the character, but they don't really have a huge conflict. And they may play a part and still not have a huge conflict. So you can add information to the person, the servant, you know, pretty much that's it. So you know who this person is. Okay. Now, locations. This one, I haven't really developed a lot of locations, but just to give you an idea of, you know, let's add an image. There we go. All right, so I know that Pinatopia is right here because it's on the map that I've added. So, I mean, a very, very useful tool. You can also designate these. And this is where I want to get kind of into how Bibisco is very helpful. Okay, so once you start with your chapters, this is chapter 1 for this particular book. Secret Well Kept is scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and scene 4. Okay, I've got my reason for the chapter is pretty much here, and any notes. This is great. I absolutely love the notes portion because anything I think of while I'm writing, instead of exiting the chapter, I can just go up here to the notes and create a note, maybe for next time I log in, so that I'll remember to add or do or whatever I'm choosing. Now, what's great about these scenes is as you're writing and adding characters, there are a couple things you can do. So this right here, it allows you to view your characters, your locations, your architecture of the novel and chapters that you've already written. So if I need to go back to my premise, my initial premise, or my timeline, I can do that right here from where I'm working. I can look at the chapters. I'm sorry, the characters, their personal data, anything that I filled out for these would be located here. So remember I added an image? I can look at the image and see that. Okay. Same thing with locations. So Pinatopia, this is my description. That's the image I just added. Okay, and you can do that for all of your locations, which I haven't filled this out because this is the old one, but I can look at each of my chapters. Okay, I can either look at the text, I can look at the reason, I can look at the notes. So let's go to chapter 1, notes. There they are. We just looked at those, but I didn't have to leave to look at it. Okay, that's the reason for the chapter that you know is here, and I'll show you it here in just a second. Once I'm done, you want to mark it. Okay, now let's go out of this just for a second. There's the reason, there's the notes. I can't even access the images from this screen, so the fact that they've made that available to me, as well as other chapters and other chapters available, it's priceless. It really helps when you're writing. Now let's go back in because there's something else I want to talk about, and that is your display tags. You want to be able to designate this for analysis later. So this is chapter 1, scene 1. The scene is called The Secret Well Kept. What is the point of view of this? I'm going to say omniscient third person. Who are the characters that appear? Well, Nita, Garen, these two we know appear in this chapter. Let's see, we'll add somebody else. We'll say Thema and let's see, Abel. Okay, so these 4 characters, we'll say they appear here. Where is their location? I'm going to put them in Pinatopia. Okay. And they're actually not in Pinatopia, though. They're in they're in Galaxy News. You can add time here. So you can actually, set this to pretty much any time you want. You can go all the way back to, AD if you want. So let's say 1831, August 31st at 8:15 a.m. That's when I was born. All right, and which narrative strand does this belong to? Actually, this does belong to Neetha, so I'm going to go ahead and mark that. And this is going to be useful later on. So once it's completed, I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to go ahead and save that and close it. Now, we're going to see that in our analysis. So, our chapter length. I have 6,849 words for chapter 1. Chapter 2 is there, but it's not completed. So, let's move on. The character distribution. So, Neetha, Garen, Zorba, and Thema Queen, and who else did I add? Abel, the Or, which is probably they're in a different scene. So all these are in different scenes, but the ones I just added, they came up here. I don't have anything for chapter 2, so nothing comes up. So it's very important that when you're in your chapter, you actually mark, if you want to use this analysis, you actually mark who's there, what the point of view is, etc. List of appearances. So by name, this is my first character that I did in the characters portion. So it names her. It says where she is. Remember, I just did this. The location, the scene, and the chapter. Deo Magi hasn't appeared yet, so nothing. Garen Supreme is the next one. It shows his date and time, which I just added, location, scene, and the chapter. Okay, and I'll kind of show you a little better one of my actual book that I'm writing to give you a better example. Distribution of location. So this is listed by location, what chapter they're in. Okay, so you can see Algernon, Glistening Pond, between Morzia and Tapamia, in the Glistening Pond, and in chapter 1, that's actually where they are. And they also City of the Gods in Galaxy News, which I see I have some typos there, but I'm not using this one anymore. So moving forward, your narrative strand distribution. So that narrative strand that you did at the beginning, this is going to kind of give you a weighting of, and when I say weighting, I'm not talking about stopping. I'm talking about a weight in terms of how many more, how many less. So how weighted the narrative strand is for each of your characters. So if you have a narrative strand where one of the lesser main characters has a heavier distribution than your main character, that might be an issue. So you might want to review. So this is great to help for that. And uses of points of view, I pretty much, just use 1 or 2 anyway. So, and these are not the ones I didn't know what I was doing. Again, I do have a link, and I'll put that in the description below to my blog, where we'll cover the points of view. There's some worksheets there that you can download and give you a better idea of how each is used. So I can give you that there. Now, export. moving forward. You can export in PDF format. You can export into Word through rich text format. So you can download a document, RTF, and you can use that in Microsoft Word, OpenOffice, and Libre. And this is what we were talking about exporting as an archive. Basically what you do is you go in and select the directory that you want to save it in. I'm going to put it on the desktop for now and choose OK. And it's going to actually, it's going to take a second maybe. Oh no, I didn't save. So I'm not going to do it, but basically what this does is it'll create a .Bibisco file for you. So if you ever need to go to a different computer, this is where you export your project. Once you do export it, I am going to do that because I'm going to show you what it does. I'm just going to put it on the desktop, okay, and save it. It exports not only your writing, oops, let's do this here, not only your writing, but it also, okay, so this is the Bibisco file, I'm sorry. When you export in Word, and we'll do that on the desktop as well, it exports not only your writing, but a copy of the project file. So this one is novel and this one is project. So when you open this one up, you'll see your novel writing, okay? The chapters, the scenes, etc. When you open this one up, you'll see everything else, your characters, you know, everything that you wrote about that character, your locations, etc. Anything, any information that you filled out in the character building portion, you'll find that there. So everything about the project that's not the writing will come up in this one here. So that's something I didn't mention before. Now I've got your settings, so you got your text editor, of course. You can change that stuff here, enable and disable there, as well as change the language settings. That's temporary. It goes back because you designated your language at the beginning. Okay. Information. This is a great thing to go over. They don't have their YouTube here, but the YouTube is absolutely wonderful for tips and tricks. These guys do respond on Facebook, Twitter, etc. I had an instance where I erased a file. I think I told you in the beginning I erased a file, and the next time I opened up Bibisco, it gave me an error. And so I went on YouTube, I went on Facebook, I went on Twitter. I was just furious. I couldn't believe that I got this error. What's going on? And, you know, the guys, they responded within, you know, a couple hours, and they said, hey, that's actually a known issue. If you've deleted the directory file, then, you know, if you can't get it back, you'll have to re-download, but hopefully you've saved a copy of the .Bibisco so that you can just, you know, reopen. So that .Bibisco archive file is important to save on your drive. Make sure that you save, save, save. This computer can go kaput tomorrow. So as long as I have a copy on my drive, on my cloud, on my, you know, I know that I'll be okay. So I always save a copy of that archive as well as the RTFs on something. All right. Donations. This is free, guys. They do, I think they're going to come out with a paid version if they haven't already. But this is free. So, I mean, donate $1, $5, $10, $20, whatever. You know, it's just an amazing program for it to be free. So, next one, your suggested readings. These are not free. Okay, you do have to pay for them, but there's a great description of each one. I've got one of them. It's a phenomenal read, and it really does help you, you know, express your unique writing skills. So just make sure that you take a look at those, even if you don't get them. All right. A couple drawbacks that we kind of went over, but I'm going to go over them again. project. Let's go back here. Okay, before we do that, let's just do this real quick. I'm going to go over my particular project, the one that I'm working on now. It's a little better filled out, and I just wanted to give you a better look at the analysis. So as you can see, my chapter length, it kind of varies depending on, how I feel that day or week or month. My character distribution is a little better filled out. As we go forward, you can see she's a part of the first 4 chapters, and then she drops off on chapter 5, and some other characters come in that haven't been there. And I haven't really filled this all the way out yet. So, but just to give you an idea of how it fills out once you start really designating your tags. So, Supreme Deitess, Neath the Supreme Deitess, that's my first character. And as you can see, she's in chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the scenes that she's in. These are the locations of those scenes. Dideo Magi, he actually shows up in chapter 3, and these are the scenes that he comes in. Garen Supreme, he's in 1, 3, and 4. So, this really helps if I'm looking for, where is Gozi Khan? Oh, he's in chapter 1. City of the Gods, Tower Garden. He also appears in Aristocracy Hall and Brief Interruption. Okay, so I know I can find him there. That really breaks it down. Once you have 10, 12 chapters, when is the last time I saw him? Well, I saw him in chapter 4 last, in Algernon. Okay, so this is very helpful stuff. Moving forward, narrative strand distribution. I haven't really done a whole lot of this. In chapter 2, I didn't do it at all, so I need to go back and do that. But this helps for how your story is put together, of course. If I know I use Neetha's narrative strand more than anyone else's, that's kind of my goal. But what if I used, this guy's narrative strand more than anyone else's, and he's not a main character? That could be an issue. So that definitely helps with that. Point of view, I don't really use, I try to mark it when I can if I do, but not really. So, but some other people may, choose to do that. So, there you have that. Now, drawbacks. As far as characters are concerned, I've built a lot of characters, okay, between these and these here. And actually from the other one that we looked at, there's no way to import those characters into this story. So when I go to do project 2, so this is the first story. Once this is complete, I'll start work on project 2. When I do that, there's no way for me to import those characters into this project. So I actually brought that up with the owners or the guys that run the project or run Bibisco, and they said that they may include that in the next version. So I'd like to see that. And if there's a paid version, maybe give where you can just import everything into a new story versus maybe just for the free version, just be able to import the main characters, and you can do your secondary characters over. Secondary characters are a little less difficult to import because you just, open up the character, copy what you said about them, and then paste them in the new one. Or paste them into a document and then just go over and paste everything. But with the main characters, they are so in depth. There's so much about them in your first book. When you go to do your second book, it's a lot to transfer over. And, to go from project to project is just a little intimidating and harsh and time consuming. So they are considering doing that for the upgrade. And one of the other things that I found about this is when you export your novel to a Word document, you do have to go in and do a little bit of editing, spacing, and etc., etc. Other than that, I haven't really found much else wrong. So please like, subscribe, share if you must, if you'd like to, with other writers. And let me know what you think in the comments. I know I am so monotone, but this is probably the 5th time I've recorded this, so I apologize. But with that, download Bibisco. You have to. It's a great program. It really helped me with my writing. Also visit my blog. Like I said, I'll leave a link to that in the description below. And happy writing. Thank you so much for watching.